Joining us to talk about impeachment and how it could affect the country is Democratic Congresswoman Jahana Hayes from Connecticut. Now, she's a supporter of impeachment, but she says she struggled to reach that decision. Why did you struggle? I mean, you didn't run on impeachment. You ran saying, hey, listen, that's a big word to throw around. Why were you struggling with that?
Well, thanks for having me, Van. And you're right, I struggled. I was one of the last ones to come around and in full support of impeachment. And for me, because I'm a history teacher, because I know what the word means, because I know the implications of it, and people are talking about this in a Republican and Democratic way, no matter what happens, our country is going to hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and even in the piece that we just heard, the thing that is concerning for me, people are talking about the length of time it's going to take, or, you know, the divisiveness. And what we're really getting away from is we are fundamentally changing the idea of what our democracy looks like by allowing this to continue.
Yeah.
So there's no celebration for me at all.
You know, there are other Democrats in the House, a few who still are, they're holding out. They haven't gotten there yet. Why do you think it's so hard for them?
Well, I think one of the things that we really have to be careful about, we're talking about this in terms of what it means towards the next election.
Right.
I know that coming out for impeachment makes me incredibly fragile. You know, in my district, it's 50.1. I could very well lose this seat because of the decision that I made. But it's worth it.
Why?
At some point, you have to stand for something. You know, and I think that I have colleagues who came out a lot sooner than me because they had hit their breaking point. For me, you know, the events of last week was my breaking point. And I think for some of my other colleagues, they're thinking, well, let's just continue to play it out and collect all the evidence. Because what I accepted and what I realized the day after I was elected, I became the representative even for the people who didn't vote for me. You know, so I have an obligation to hear their voices, to, you know, give validity to their concerns and hear that.
What more would you need to see, or what more do you think Democrats would need to see who are still hesitant to say, we need a full impeachment?
Well, you know, I don't even know, in the events of the last 24 hours, I don't even know where my colleagues are at this point. You know, we've been in direct communication. We've had several caucus calls since we left. But we're at a point where things are just so self-evident.
Yeah.
And I don't want to rush to judgment. You know, I'm still listening and learning, but my lion eyes are looking right at it. You know, when people were talking about what does the transcript say, or have you seen the whistleblower complaint? And I said, no, but I've heard the president.
Right.
You know, I heard the president say, I made the call and this is what I said. And if I can't believe the president, if I can't take him at his word, then the funny thing is, I called for the inquiry, but I pray we're wrong. I hope we're wrong. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump represents me. He represents this country. So if our president is operating in a way that we are, you know, when I stepped back and I thought about it, and insert any president, but the idea that a sitting United States president would withhold congressionally appropriated funds from a strategic partner in order to get dirt on his political opponent is just wrong.
Yes. Have you talked to any of your Republican colleagues since this all started happening? And what are your Republican colleagues saying to you publicly and privately?
I have talked to some of my Republican colleagues, and they're just as concerned as I am. The thing that I struggle with is it really doesn't matter what you say to me privately if when we go on the floor you vote differently, or when you speak publicly. You know, there is nothing, I promise you, there is nothing that Speaker Pelosi could say to me, that Leader Hoyer could say to me, that would make me compromise my moral center and vote for something that I don't believe in. To say that I'm going to turn a blind eye and this is okay. I think as elected officials, we have to hold anyone who holds office accountable, or at least get to the bottom of it, find the truth. So the fact that people are just turning their head and saying, you know,
that must be frustrating to have people like whispering in your ear, like, whoa, child, this is
all
terrible.
The time, walking in, oh my God, did you see this? And at first I thought, you know, I'm listening and I'm talking, but I'm like, at the end of the day, people sent us here to represent them, to do something, you know. So if they were saying, I believe that the president did nothing wrong, and that's why I'm supporting this or saying this, that would be one thing. But if you're saying to me privately that you agree that something happened that should not have happened, or that there is a need for investigation, and then publicly you say something different, that's completely different.
Yeah. The White House is saying that, you know, Pelosi's wrong, though, for declaring an impeachment inquiry without having any vote. The White House wants all you guys to take a vote right now, not just say you want the impeachment inquiry, but to vote on it. Do you think that the White House is right on that?
Well, the White House doesn't get to decide that. You know, the way our government was set up, we have separate but co-equal branches. The Speaker of the House can initiate a process. That process is not determined by the White House. That's just the way our government works. So the president can't say to the Speaker, this is what I want you to do before we do this. There's a process.
Yeah.
Impeachment starts in the House.
It's up to
the Speaker of the House, right, it's up to the Speaker of the House to decide what that looks like.
What is your message? I mean, you have a lot of Americans, some super pro-impeachment, some against impeachment, some love the president, some don't. You're somebody who's been very, very thoughtful. What is your message to America as we move further down the line with this process?
This is not about President Trump. This is not about whether or not you like or don't like President Trump. You know, I was someone who did not support President Trump, did not vote for him, but the day after the election, he became my president. We don't have a process for, once he was certified, he becomes the president. So now for people to kind of put a flag down based on their feelings about President Trump, I think is wrong. If we truly believe that our national security was compromised, then we have a responsibility to act. So I would say to people, just be civil, be cautious. You know, there are some people who from day one decided that this is where they feel, but I think that there are a lot of other people who are still deeply concerned, you know, very somber, very just hesitant to proceed, and we have to respect that as well, you know, because at the end of the day, we all have to heal together. So my message would just be to proceed with caution,
yeah.
You know, to be civil, to not celebrate this, because there's nothing to be celebrated here.